problem 4. Problem 4 is an out-of-the-book question, and it reads, if penalties are imposed on both the buyers and the sellers of an illegal good, then the price of the good blank and the quantity of the good blank. So you can either have read chapter 6 of the book, or you can approach this from a supply and demand perspective. If we think about it, the problem here, even though it involves an illegal good, it's still a market. It still has buyers, and it still has sellers, and it still has a good. The fact that it's illegal is kind of irrelevant for this question. We can still figure out what's going on by looking at it through the tools that we've used to understand legal markets. So, for instance, we're imposing penalties on both buyers and sellers. And these penalties, even though they might be jail time, things like that, because it's an illegal market, it's still very similar to penalties that a legal market will face. So, for instance, in a legal market, suppliers might be hurt by the fact that more suppliers enter the market. That's something that shifts the supply curve to the left. It's sort of like a penalty. It's added competition. With demanders, things that shift the demand curve to the left are things like the price of supplemental goods rising. If the price of falling, if the price of a supplemental good falls, then the demand for that good is going to fall. So I mean, you can look at it in the same way, and we can say that the penalties on both the suppliers and the sellers are going to shift the supply and demand curves to the left. So if we imagine that our original supply and demand curve looks something like this. All we have to do is pretty much shift the respective curves, see where it ends up, and we can measure the effect on the price and the quantity. However, we have a penalty imposed on the suppliers and the demanders. So we're going to have two different shifts, and as we learned in class, when you have two different shifts on the same market, you have to do two different diagrams, because you don't know which one is going to be more pronounced and which one is going to be less severe. So you don't know whether the demand curve is going to be shifting a lot or just a little bit. You don't know if the supply curve is shifting a lot or just a little bit. So what we do here is we do a mix of both. On this one, we're going to shift the supply curve a lot and the demand curve just a tiny bit. In this one, we're going to shift the supply curve just a tiny bit and the demand curve a whole lot. Remember, penalties are being imposed on both, so both the supply is going to shift to the left and the demand is going to shift to the left. So here we're going to shift the supply a lot. So we're going to be real exaggerated about this. We're going to shift the supply all the way over here. And demand just a little bit. So the demand's only going to shift a little bit to the left. So you need demand, so you need supply. So our old equilibrium point went from here to here. The effect on the price and the quantity can then be measured by a drop in the quantity and an increase in the price. Here we do the same thing. Supply curve, shift just a tiny bit. Demand curve is the one we're going to get real exaggerated with. So we went from this equilibrium to this one. And the effect on the price and quantity for this situation is that the price actually, the quantity still drops. The price drops as well. And this is why you have to do the two diagrams, because see, in this case the price goes up, in this case the price drops. The quantity goes down in both cases, so that's something we can definitively say happens. The quantity is going to go down, but the price you really don't know. You need more information. You don't know what's going to happen to the price unless you know exactly how much of a hit the supply and demand curves are going to take. So for question 4, the answer is E. The price of the good might rise, fall, or not change, and the quantity of the good decreases, but not necessarily to zero. That's E.